Orleans signed C.J. Spiller for something other than sitting on the fucking bench.
31 other passes that should have been intercepted this year.
So that's why I have David Johnson on my board higher.
If you're doing a live draft, wait till you're drunk to draft this guy. We welcome you to the Fifth Down! What up, Fifth Downers? This is Johnny Slokes, and I'm here with my partner in crime, K-Mill, and we have a guest today, Eliot. Introduce yourself, guys.
Hey, what's up? How's it going?
Eliot Crist, Pro Football Focus analyst, and fresh off a big GPP win, both on FanDuel and DraftKings this weekend.
You did have a very good weekend. You won like 2 or 3 tournaments?
I won 2 tournaments, 17,000 total.
Wow,
yeah,
that's amazing.
Very, very impressive.
Yeah, they were not by much. I won one of them by 0.9 points, and the other one by I think 1 point.
Feel more than free to if we talk about someone that you like this week for daily fantasy. Just feel free to just shout it out.
As we go through the rankings, I'm certainly happy to shout them out. But I'll tell you right now that the guy I love that I don't think he's getting a ton of love this week is Will Fuller. I think he's got 150-yard, 2-touchdown upside. I think that Russell Wilson, Jimmy Graham is the quarterback, tight end back I want. And I think this is the week you pay up for running back because Murray, Bell, and McCoy all have amazing matchups and great game script.
Yeah, very, very good points. What about Lamar Miller? I'm just curious, that Indianapolis defense is very horrible. Do you think that's an option too for daily fantasy, or is he too overpriced?
Well, no, I think the fact that he's still not super cheap will have his ownership down, and he's burned some people this year, especially last week against the Vikings. But Miller's one of those guys that he's gotten the touches, and he's gotten his 100 yards. He just hasn't gotten the end zone, and the Indianapolis run D is the kind of defense that gets you healthy. So I would roster Miller with confidence. I know he's going to be in a couple of my lineups.
Anytime you're getting that kind of volume, you know that eventually the touchdowns are going to come. So.
Yeah, I have a feeling that this is a breakout week, but that's good. I like hearing you say that, Eliot.
All right, let's before we jump into things, let's just give a quick little injury update. So a few players. Start with the Bears. Zach Miller, no practice. Eddie Royal, no practice. And Alshon Jeffrey was limited. I think the only one I'm really totally worried about is maybe Eddie Royal. I think Zach Miller will play. Obviously, Jeffrey's always on the injury report.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Jeffrey's questionable every single week, and every single week he goes out there. And it seems like Miller's following suit.
Well, lately his play has been a little bit questionable. Theo Riddick popped up on the injury report. Came out kind of out of nowhere. He's having an ankle injury. I think they're probably just giving him a rest, so I don't think that's anything to be worried about. What kind of surprised me is we were expecting, Eddie Lacy to, probably get some rest this weekend, but he actually practiced limited today, and it was Starks that was the one that sat out of practice.
Yeah, looks like reports are that Starks is unlikely to play and Lacy should play. Wednesday practice reports are normally the ones that are most overreacted to because it's often a rest day for veterans. Like I know T.Y. Hilton didn't practice today, but he has to then go as questionable, but he's one of those guys that's definitely going to play. When guys don't practice on Friday, that's when you get real scared.
Yeah, exactly, and I totally agree. And I'm not really I don't really overreact if they don't miss practice on a Monday. But yeah, Friday is where you really start to worry on that.
Kaepernick is probably going to start. How do you guys feel that's going to affect the 49ers role players?
Well, I think that mainly it's, he's not really – I've heard that he hasn't been good in practice, which isn't a good sign of confidence, but I have heard that a lot of people just say he's a gamer. He goes out there and he plays the game and he plays it with confidence. I mean, if we see what we saw last year, I'm not excited, but who knows, maybe.
It could help Torrey Smith. Probably a better deep ball than Gabbert for sure. I think it hurts early because Kaepernick's accuracy is pretty terrible, and Hurley's a small target underneath guy, and that's not really what Kaepernick has excelled at.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking that Torrey Smith value probably gets a nice little boost because, that's all Kaepernick can really do is throw deep. So that's kind of where I was going with that one. It looks like Jamal Charles is going to start. That's not anything too surprising. It looks like he's finally not limited. So look for him to get the majority of the workload over there, I believe.
Yeah.
Dez finally started practicing. It looks like he might still miss week 6, but it's nice to see that he's finally getting on the field.
Yeah, I think that helps guys like Cole Beasley open up underneath too. So that's always nice if he plays.
Yeah, for sure. Everyone thought Beasley would just step up immediately when Dez left, but clearly, when the focus is on Cole Beasley, he's not ready to be the focus of an offense.
Yeah,
I don't think he'll ever be. Jordan Reed, concussion protocol. I thought that kind of came out of nowhere. I didn't even know he had a concussion.
Yeah, I didn't either. I was completely blindsided by it, and I'm like, "Fuck! Do I need to get another tight end?"
Yeah, Reed's concussions are as scary as anybody's because he's had such a history with them. Did they actually diagnose him, or did they just say it's possible he has one and they're checking it out?
They just said it's possible. Right now, that's all we know. He's in concussion protocol. What we've heard is that they're evaluating for a possible concussion.
If he was to have one, that would be his 5th.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that goes from he's fine to he's out for the season very quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of concussions, Cam Newton is back at practice. He's going to obviously be a go this weekend. So, I think we all expected that one. Foster's back at practice. Looks like he's going to be available for week 6. But Steve Smith, on the other hand, is his playing time could be up in the air. He wasn't at practice today. I know he's a tough guy, so we'll have to keep an eye on his health throughout the week.
If there's one person in the NFL that can fight through an injury, it's Steve Smith. I remember a couple years ago against the Steelers, and they broke his back, and he was trying to walk it off and stay in the game.
Yeah, that guy, man, he's something else.
Yeah, he's definitely a tough SOB. Eric Decker, his season's probably done. He's gone to IR. That's unfortunate for the Jets, but it's a big boost for Enunwa, who's already gotten 25 targets the past 3 weeks, and he looks like he can start to try to build on that. Same thing with Brandon Marshall. I think that he could possibly be like a top 5 play for the rest of the year.
Man, telling you, man, I told you last week, I said Eric Decker's not going to play another snap this season. It turns out I'm probably right, so I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, anytime a guy says he can't sleep at night because the pain hurts so much to put pressure on the shoulder, I don't think he's ready to go get hit by the NFL player.
That's what I said, man. I heard partially torn rotator cuff, and I said any kind of tear in the rotator cuff, horrible. I work in the medical field, and that's just, you don't want that. It's not good.
Yeah, you kind of need those
anywhere,
to catch
so
balls.
they should calm down.
Sammy Watkins, he visited pretty famous doctors, and he said that he's not going to need a second surgery. He may be able to return this year. If you have an IR spot, you could have like a hope and a prayer and just stash him on your bench.
Yeah, he's a nice stash, maybe usable for the playoffs. He was burning people at the start of the season, so I don't know how much trust you'd have in him. But if you got an open IR spot and you're in a deep league and somebody else dropped him, there's definitely worse options out there.
Yep, I agree with everything you guys just said.
All right, how do you guys feel about Justin Forsett signing to the Detroit Lions? Obviously, they have a lot of injuries going on in that backfield. I don't think he'll be like an immediate play, but definitely give him a couple of weeks, and I think he could be like an early down back.
Yeah, from what I understood in a lot of leagues that I'm in, people picked him up like right away, and I'm like, I was the guy that I would have picked him up maybe if he would have gone the first come first serve. I wasn't going to waste a waiver claim on him, but we'll see. I think people are jumping the gun on him. There's Zach Zenner back there, there's Theo Riddick, and Dwayne Washington may be coming back at some time soon. So I wouldn't look too much into this right now, but yeah, I think he's a good bench stash.
Yeah, Forsett does very little for me. What he does best is catch the ball in the backfield, and Riddick's better than him. And it sounds like Washington, Zenner, and Forsett will all get touches. So I'm not rushing to pick him up.
I think even if he was to get the majority of the early down work, I think he'd still have a miserable time in Detroit behind that offensive line. So I'm not really looking too much into it either. With that being said, I think we can jump into our rankings. What do you guys say?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, well, let's go into quarterbacks. My number one quarterback, my start of the week, is Ben Roethlisberger going on the road to Miami. I think that Miami's defense is like barely there. I think he's going to shred them to pieces.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely an argument that can be made for that. I can't disagree with you. I have him ranked a bit lower than you, but yeah, Miami's just not all together. Ben Roethlisberger, he's got now Sammy Coates at his disposal now, who's quote unquote fully ready. So we'll see. I like Cam Newton this week. He's going up against New Orleans. He's fresh off concussion protocol. I think he's going to change his style of play just a tad. But I still, you got to love this mouth-watering matchup.
In terms of Ben Roethlisberger, the Dolphins are barely a team anymore. They look like they've quit. Tony Lippett's their number one corner, and he was a safety and he was a wide receiver in college. The Steelers are loaded on offense, obviously. Roethlisberger's home and away splits are a little concerning, but Coates playing like Martavis Bryant is huge. I mean, he cannot catch. Coates cannot catch. He dropped 2 or 3 touchdowns last week, and he just got stitches on his hand, and he's wearing a soft cast this week. Yeah, but it's not like he could catch before, so I can't imagine his hands could get much worse. And he's basically a running back that plays wide receiver that he's incredibly explosive, an amazing athlete. Once he gets the ball in his hands, he's unstoppable. But he has a lot of trouble getting the ball in his hands. But I like the Big Ben play a lot. I have Breeze as my number one quarterback this week, just because in terms of knowing what you're going to get, Drew Brees at home is about as safe as it gets. But
yeah, and
Roethlisberger and Newton are...
Not to mention, though, I love you brought up Drew Brees because you can make a case for him at number one, too, because that Carolina defense is barely there, too. It's been getting ripped to shreds week in, week out, so I can't see why Drew Brees at home would be any different.
They actually looked pretty good last week, actually. I
would say that they looked good because Jameis Winston was throwing it 30 feet over every wide receiver's head.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. He was overthrowing Evans on a lot of routes, and I was like, that's pretty hard to do because Evans is a big target.
Interesting to note about Sammy Coates is it's probably not in every league, but and I know at least in our league, it's a half-point PPR. He's actually a wide receiver 1 right now.
Yeah.
This last week was monster. I mean, he's one of the reasons I won that GPP last week was because I stacked him with Big Ben. But he's getting the targets and the looks, and he's a must-own player at this point because the Steelers have proven that they're good enough on offense to feed a lot of mouths. And right now, he's after Bell and Brown, he's going to get the football. So
yeah, very good point.
My number 2 this week is Tom Brady. He's staying at home against the Cincinnati Bengals. Look what he did last week. I don't see why that can't continue. Obviously, I don't think he's going to get 400 yards again, but I see him having a fine enough afternoon.
Yeah. My number 2 is Drew Brees. Like Eliot was just saying, for the above reasons, I'm not going to go into it too much, but you know what you're getting, so I won't go too much into it.
Yeah, I kind of debated on whether or not I wanted to put Drew Brees at number 2 or not. I do have him at number 3. I think he's a fine play. Obviously, Carolina's without their top corner, so I think that he's going to roll at home.
Could I just one quick thing about Cam Newton that makes me a little nervous is that the inner circle was talking about he should play differently, which I don't think is going to affect him. But you have your franchise quarterback who you just gave a ton of money to, and he's coming off a concussion. I wonder if that affects his goal line carries and how much they run him.
I think it's going to be more like, how last year Andrew Luck, and he's still doing this right now. It's pissing me off. He's taking way too many unnecessary hits. I think that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to tell him, Cam, come on, man, you can't take this hit. Because that one he took where he got the concussion was completely unavoidable. In fact, I'm watching it now, and it's like I just laugh at it when I look at it. It's hilarious. He could have avoided that. So I think that he's just going to the process is pushing into Cam, don't take unnecessary hits.
Yeah, I think sometimes that he thinks he's so big that he's invincible and he just takes shots that he doesn't necessarily have to take, and that's going to shorten his career if he keeps doing stuff like that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
I mean, I still have him at number 4 because he does have a good matchup, but I did feel a little bit uneasy putting him in my top 5. I'm not gonna lie.
Wow.
Yeah, I have him at 5, but I don't have him as the slam dunk number 1 overall quarterback that I think a lot of people will just use him that way this week.
You know, a guy that I think that I probably have higher on my list than both you guys is Carson Palmer. I think he finally gets things together against this Jets pass defense has been giving up a lot of yards, and I think that this is a great game for Palmer to get his shit together.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty nice that you just called the Jets secondary a defense. I mean, their number 1 corner right now is Marcus Williams, who's 5'8", like 180 pounds, who can't cover or tackle.
And that's
not
good.
Trouble.
If fucking Darrelle Revis plays, I mean, he's barely even an NFL corner anymore. He's getting burnt consistently. So, if he does or doesn't play, I don't think it really matters.
He's been dealing with some injuries.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that, this is easily exploitable secondary. I would totally be comfortable starting Carson Palmer this week.
As a Jets fan, I can't disagree with any of your analysis.
I'm sorry we had to have such harsh words for you.
I've said harsher this season. The guy I'm probably highest on is Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I can get on board with that. I got him a spot lower than Palmer. I got him at number 6.
I got him at number 3, actually.
Oh, how about that? But that Falcons defense is not very good. He's finally healthy, and Jimmy Graham is back to the player that they traded for. And his upside is as high as anybody because he adds all that running upside, and he hasn't really done much of that this year. I think this is the week where he could get 4 touchdowns.
Yeah,
you definitely got to think it's going to be a high-scoring game, so he's definitely going to have to make some plays.
Yeah, he is, and he's going to have to extend plays with his feet, do what he does best. But I think that 2 weeks of rest, basically, that he just got, man. Oh yeah, he's going to be ready to roll. I love Doug Baldwin in this matchup too. I feel like he's going to have a nice day too, because he's been kind of a roller coaster. It's like every other week he has a big week, goose egg, big week, goose egg. So I think that Doug Baldwin's in for a bit, and I like Jimmy Graham too. I think Jimmy Graham's a great play too.
Who do you have at your number 5? You said you had Wilson at number 3.
Oh, yeah. Are you talking to me? I got Aaron Rodgers.
I'm down on Rodgers.
I'm a little bit down on him too. I got him down at number 8. He didn't really look very great against the Giants defense. I know they got a pretty decent pass defense, but so correct me if I'm wrong. I believe he completed less than 50% of his passes last week.
Yeah, it was a rough outing. I still have confidence, and this Dallas secondary really hasn't impressed me this year. And not to mention that too, I love Randall Cobb getting involved again. I love that. I love that it's going to open things up for Jordy Nelson. I like that it's going, and I'm confident that Eddie Lacy will play. It's going to help everybody out. So that's why I have him so high.
I don't disagree with. It sounds crazy with anything either one of you said. I mean, Rodgers is so much better at home than he is away. He hasn't kind of looked that great in the last couple seasons. I think in part because the Packers have been beating people with defense, and he doesn't need to light people up. I mean, he lit the Lions up this year, but I love Randall Cobb because Randall Cobb's a huge reason as to why I won one of my tournaments. But Rodgers just they haven't been throwing as much as they used to, and I think there are a lot of good quarterback plays this week, and I mean, obviously in season long, if you have Rodgers, you're starting Rodgers, but I would probably have him somewhere in the 8 or 9 range as well.
I said it on a couple of shows back about how through 2008 to 2014, Aaron Rodgers was one of the most efficient quarterbacks per drop back, and last year I think he was 31st, and before he played the Lions he was 33rd. So his efficiency has been way down these past 2 seasons.
Yeah, I remember last time I was on your show, I told you the fact that Josh McCown actually had better numbers in his last 16 games than Aaron Rodgers.
Brian Hoyer has better numbers than Aaron Rodgers in his past 11 games.
Yeah. That is very true.
I got at number 7, I have Derek Carr. A little bit higher than I think a lot of people would put him there. It's really all dependent on if Philip Gaines is coming back for Kansas City because it seems like their secondary is a little bit better when he's in the lineup. But if he's sitting down, I got Carr as number 7. I think he's going to do a fine job. He just got I think it was 3 or 4 games this year already where he has a multi-touchdown game. So he's I think the number 3 or 4 quarterback thus far. So I think he's locked and loaded to go this week.
Man, I got Carson Wentz as my number 7. I think that he's a great play this week. He's against a Washington defense that's been fucking. Josh Norman may or may not play. Either way, it's been Swiss cheese this year. So, I think that Carson Wentz is a phenomenal play this week. Zach Ertz is healthy. Jordan Matthews hopefully doesn't drop too many balls. I think that he's a good play this week.
I want to see if Norman plays because Norman can erase Matthews, and then I don't doubt Wentz's talent, but you then start to wonder who he's going to throw the ball to. I love Carr. The last time we saw this Chiefs defense was on primetime against the Steelers, and that was like Michigan was playing Rutgers, right? It was 37-0 at halftime. It was something absurd.
Yeah.
And Cooper and Crabtree, he's just got amazing chemistry with him. I like Wentz, the talent. His matchup's solid. I just think if Norman's there and can take away Matthews, you're relying on Aguilar and Ertz a whole lot.
I was telling Keegan this over the phone a couple of days ago. I was like, who Derek Carr kind of reminds me of? He kind of reminds me of a young Aaron Rodgers. He has the same kind of skill set. He can be mobile. He's accurate. He can make the deep ball. He's smart. I really like this young guy.
Yeah,
he's been incredibly impressive.
I can't say enough about him too. I don't necessarily have him as high as you do, but I do really like Derek Carr, and I love how he looks against San Diego now. Let's pretend for a second that San Diego has a competent secondary, though. But yeah, you got to like that Amari Cooper's getting involved again, too. When they're all 3 firing on all cylinders, it's something beautiful to watch.
All right, so I already said that I have Aaron Rodgers at 8. Who do you guys have at 8?
Andrew Luck at Houston. I think that this is a good matchup for him. T.Y. Hilton's been explosive as ever, and I think that Andrew Luck's just going to continue doing what he does.
I have Matt Stafford. I think he's a good sleeper this week. That Rams secondary has been eaten up. Tremaine Johnson's missing the week. They can't cover the slot receiver, which means that Bolden could be a good pickup and play this week. Marvin Jones could have a big week. Golden Tate doesn't exist anymore, but Matt Stafford I like this week.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think you can trust Stafford pretty much if he's playing at home. He's looked pretty good at home. I know he kind of struggled against the Bears. It was looking awful, but he had a nice bounce back game against Philadelphia. So you can look for him to have a decent enough day. He's not going to burn you too bad. I got him down at number 12. My number 9 is Blake Bortles. I don't necessarily think he's going to have a great game, but he is playing against Chicago defense that just gave up 300 yards to Andrew Luck, and I see Blake having a similar game.
Yeah, I got Blake at number 9 too, and for the same reasons. He doesn't have to be a competent real-life quarterback to be a good fantasy quarterback, and this offense throws the ball fucking 50 times a game, so that's what you're getting with this.
The question I always ask myself with Blake Bortles is, do you expect them to win the game? Because if you expect them to win the game, you should not play him. But if you expect them to be down, you are going to be annoyed with him in the first half when he has 75 passing yards. But in the second half, when he all of a sudden goes for 300 yards, you're going to be thrilled with yourself. Because that guy is a garbage time king.
Yeah, this is a game where he very well could blow up in your face because I think this is a game that could go either way. They're playing Chicago. They're not very good. Jacksonville's not very good. It could really go either way.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I can see this game being Brian Hoyer and the Bears getting out ahead and everything, and then Blake struggling in the first half, and then all of a sudden, I think I can see this going. But yeah, you're right. This could go either way, and this is all predictable, But yeah, if Blake Bortles, if he's going to have a good fantasy day, it's going to be in the second half.
All right, I got Andrew Luck at number 10. I know we talked about him a little bit. It's a divisional game. He's coming off a 300-yard game with 2 touchdowns. I look for him to have a decent afternoon.
Yeah. They throw the ball a ton. They can't run the football. And their running game is basically Andrew Luck dumping it off to Frank Gore. But I wish Moncrief would come back because he makes such a difference in that offense. Because right now it's T.Y. Hilton or bust.
Yeah, because, Dorsett, I hate to say it, but I don't see him ever being like that guy on the outside or being a number one receiver. He just seems like a slot guy to me. He can't get off the line. He can't beat a press, and then he's hurting the team.
Yeah, I agree. He's a guy that you can maybe count on to get like a long touchdown, but it's so hard to predict when that does happen. So yeah, it does open things up when Moncrief's in the lineup.
All right. My number 11 is actually my stream of the week. It's a pretty predictable stream of the week. It's Alex Smith. He's going up against Oakland. I know he's playing on the road, but you got to think that they're going to have to put some points up if they want to beat Oakland. So I could definitely see him being a part of that. So that's why I have it at number 11. Yeah,
my number 11 is Jared Carr. I know we already talked about him. You're a little bit higher on him than me, but yeah, I'm not going to go too into it. Excellent play this week. Even against KC, I really think the secondary is just really overhyped. Everybody knows my hatred of Marcus Peters. I fucking hate that guy. He's way overrated. But yeah, this is a week where I can really see him having a good week.
Yeah, the only thing that always worries you about the Chiefs is the way they play, because they run the ball and kill the clock. But throw it to Kelsey and Macklin and good things will happen. But the matchup screams play him.
Mm-hmm.
I think they kind of miss their defensive end because, he's been a big part of that defense last year, and he hasn't been on the field at all this year. So I look for him to come back off the PUP list and really energize that defense. Maybe not, obviously not this week, but, in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, they really miss Justin Houston. Their defense is not the same without him.
All right. My number 12, we talked about him already a little bit, Matthew Stafford. He's going up against LA defense that's a little bit banged up in the secondary, and he obviously plays a lot better at home, so I'm looking for Matthew Stafford to have a decent afternoon.
Yeah, I have Matthew Stafford as well, and I'm the same on him. Even though this is against a pretty decent LA defense, he's playing at home, and Matthew Stafford can go 1 week from looking horrible like 2 weeks ago, and then he can have those days where he looks great like last week, and I have a feeling that at home he's going to have a great game. So, yeah, I definitely have him as a start this week.
Yeah, and then we already touched on Carson Wentz a little bit. I got him at number 13. Obviously, I thought he was going to play really good against Detroit, but he kind of had like a little bit of a rookie mishap on the road, and I could very well see that happening on the road against Washington. Although I know their pass defense isn't really good, but neither is Detroit, and you can kind of see what happened.
Yeah, I think that you're bringing up really good reasons, but, I mean, everybody's just wanting to act. They lost the game in Detroit, and it really wasn't a bad game
for him. Ryan
Matthews
Matthews kind of lost the game against Detroit.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But, yeah, Carson Wentz had a good game aside from an interception he threw, which was the first of his career, So I think the kid has got raw talent, man. And, call me crazy, but this weekend, I love that matchup. This Washington secondary, man, has been exploitable. They've been burnt for nearly 200-300 yards almost every game this season, so I look for that to continue. And, yeah, even if they take away Jordan Matthews, I really care less because we all know that he struggles with drops anyways. And, Josh Norman's only one guy. I don't know why, man. I like him this week. He's a good play.
Yeah, I mean, the only other guy I'm high on this week is Andy Dalton. And it's not because I think he's a great quarterback, because I think the Patriots are going to put up a lot of points on him. And that means that he's going to be throwing. And garbage time to A.J. Green, Brandon LaFell, I think is a good streaming play this week. I think he could be a decent quarterback, probably around that 15 range.
I mean, it could very well be another game where, New England gets out to an early lead, and then it's going to turn into a Geo game where they're going to be throwing the ball a lot, and I could, very well see Dalton getting like a 300-yard game. It wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. Dalton having a 300-yard game. I think that I could see him in this game having somewhere around the realm of 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, something like that.
So not a good real-life game, but a good solid fantasy, though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know those guys. It's like Blake Bortles for me, It's always horrible, real day. He couldn't win the game for his team, but, he won your fantasy team for you.
I'm not exactly expecting Matt Ryan to have a great week this week, but I wasn't expecting him to have a very good week last week against Denver. How do you see him going up against Seattle on the road?
I personally don't like it. I mean, this is Matt Ryan, and he has been on fire this year. But,
he's historically been pretty bad at home, too, or on the road, too, so.
Yeah, exactly. He's what you call traditionally he's a dome quarterback, and he only really plays well in domes. And he got 22 fantasy points in Yahoo leagues, this week, which isn't horrible. It's not going to kill your team at all. But I look for something about the same. It's going to be a cookie-cutter performance from what he got in Denver. It's going to be about 25-ish points, So, but I don't think that he's a sit by any means. But I don't think that he's also like a must start.
I have a rule. If you play Seattle in Seattle, I don't play you.
That's a good rule to have.
That defense at home is lights out. I mean, Julio Jones, it doesn't matter who's covering him. I don't care if you bring back the real Darrelle Revis and Deion Sanders and double team him. You have to play him. But Matt Ryan, I don't know. I'm worried about going up to Seattle with that noise, that environment, that defense. I would play someone like Andy Dalton over Matt Ryan this week.
I can definitely see that. I would agree with that.
It's just kind of weird having Matt Ryan and Phillip Rivers outside my top 15 this week.
Yeah, it is.
It doesn't seem
right. But it is not without reason. I agree with both of you guys.
You guys ready to go over to some running back?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. This is just going to sound weird, but for quarterback, running back, and receiver, I got all Pittsburgh players at number 1. So I think it might be a little bit biased this week. But I got Le'Veon Bell at number 1 this week. He's going up against a Miami defense that's given up like 150 yards on the ground per game. So I look for him to roll in this one. I don't have to say much further on Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah, agreed. I think we're probably unanimous on this one. But, yeah, Le'Veon Bell's my number 1 as well. This Miami defense is barely, like Eliot was saying, barely even a team anymore. Let Le'Veon roll.
I can't even try to make an argument for any. I mean, he's gotten 25 points a game, right? Hasn't gotten in the end zone or cracked. He catches 8 balls a game. He has a chance to put up 200 all-purpose yards and 2 touchdowns this game. It's a no-brainer.
I can definitely see that. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy's got 300 all-purpose yards in 2 games. Like, he's just the man.
This could get real ugly for Miami, like in a hurry too. This is a game that could get really out of hand.
And they proved against the Chiefs. I mean, he was running the ball up 40 in the fourth quarter in the rain. They're letting him run.
Yeah, he looks good.
My number 2 this week is Sean McCoy. He's going up against the San Francisco defense that can't really seem to stop the run either. I think they're 31st in the league. McCoy has actually been running against some top-notch defenses, and he's been getting the job done. His schedule's starting to soften up here in the next few weeks, so I'm looking for Sean McCoy to have a big stretch here.
I definitely can't argue with that logic. I mean, that's very sound logic. I have LaShawn McCoy ranked 1 spot lower at number 3, but my number 2 this week is DeMarco Murray, and it's strictly because of matchup. He's been catching all kinds of balls. He's been doing some nice north-south running. DeMarco Murray against Cleveland.
I have McCoy at 2 as well. I mean, the Niners' only good run stopper was Navarro Bowman. He's out for the year now. He's going to get even more carries this week in terms of the pace of play. And I got Murray at 3. I mean, I think those are your clear top 3 running backs this week.
Yeah, I think we both flip-flopped our 2s and 3s with K-Mill because we both have DeMarco Murray at 3. So I mean, yeah, like you said, it's pretty unanimous who the top 3 are this week. Who do you have at number 4?
My number 4 is David Johnson. Let this guy roll, man. He's my favorite player in the NFL, and he let it roll last week against the San Francisco defense that, like you just cited, is giving up over nearly 200 yards rushing a game. So he's kind of a no-brainer for me, and this New York Jets defense isn't really, like, impressing me this year, like, in any real facet. They've had a hard time with Le'Veon Bell, and David Johnson's kind of like the same guy, just a little bit slower. So I don't see why he can't be successful this week.
Yeah, I mean, they did a good job stopping Bell running the ball, but then Bell caught 9 passes for 90 or 88 yards against them. And I could see David Johnson having 45, 50 rushing yards, but then adding 90 yards through the air and a touchdown.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
that's what I'm looking at from him.
Yeah, I got David Johnson at number 5. Guy I have a spot higher than him is Lamar Miller. I think Lamar Miller is actually a really good buy low candidate right now. His schedule for the rest of the season is looking amazing. So, I mean, if you're a guy that's in a league with a guy that's real low on Lamar Miller right now, I think it's a guy that you want to target.
Yeah, absolutely, and he's my number 5, so we have our 4 and 5 just flip-flopped, and I think that Lamar Miller, I was talking about at the start of the show with Eliot, but, Lamar Miller is a great play this week, just strictly because of matchup, and not only that, I think he gets together. I like this week, I keep saying it, but I have a feeling, and it's really fluky to predict, but I think he gets a touchdown this week.
Yeah, I'm the guy that owns Lamar Miller in every league, so I'm getting the BS trade offers, and I'm not selling on him. He's getting the opportunities. He's got a great matchup this week.
And think about this, too, just something to mention about Lamar Miller. Think about it. Even though he hasn't gotten a touchdown and he has had a, pretty horrible yards per carry average in most games, he's still getting you like 20 points a game, usually just off of volume alone.
Yeah, it really depends. If you're in a league where you're getting points per carry, then yeah, he's probably getting you like around 20 points a game. But if you're in like a standard league, I bet you're kind of frustrated with him right now.
Yeah, he's probably closer to that 10 to 12 range, but which means that he's got all the potential. We saw him last year running for over 5 yards per carry. So I think now the schedule opens up for him. He could be a big time play this week. Surprised
by my number 6 is a guy I've been real high on even during the preseason is Jordan Howard. He's going against Jacksonville, middle of the road run defense. He's got back-to-back 100-yard games, first ever Chicago Bear to do that in their debut. So that's pretty cool, And I like the way that he's being used in the passing game too. And it looks like Kadeem Carey is still having issues with his hammy this week in practice. So I'm looking for Jordan Howard to have a big week.
Yeah, I agree. I have the same spot. I have him at number 6. I don't really think you can argue for a better play this week. Off back-to-back 100-yard weeks, over 100-yard actually. And kid just looks phenomenal, man. He looks ready to explode, and I love this matchup.
I have Christian Michael at 6. With no Thomas Rawls, he's getting all the carries. He's involved in the passing game. Again, the Falcons' defense is something I want to take advantage of. I think the Seahawks kill him. Not that power rankings mean anything, but the Falcons are ahead of the Seahawks in the power rankings, and the Seahawks take that kind of thing personally and try to run up the score on people. I do like Jordan Howard. He was someone I was high on in the preseason as well. He's explosive. I have him at 7, so I think he's right there. Sometimes I worry about rookie running backs. They get up to these hot starts, and everyone expects it to continue with no hiccups. But he's playing Jacksonville, which is good news for him.
Yeah, I can definitely see your logic on that.
I think my only worry about Jordan Howard is he does have a bit of an injury history, but they really don't have anyone else in that backfield to even give the ball to right now. So I'm looking for him to have a big workload.
Yeah, I like your Christine Michael choice, Eliot. But my number 7 is Todd Gurley. He's shown flashes of it in recent weeks. And against the Detroit defense that's given up a lot of rushing yards on the ground, I think that this is a good game for Todd Gurley, and I think this is going to be one of those weeks where he has a big day, and then you try to sell him afterwards, because I really don't like the LA schedule rest of the season. So I think if he has a big game this week, you try to sell him, but I think that he does have a good game.
Got a couple of issues with Gurley this week, and it has nothing really to do with the Lions' defense, because they are giving up a lot of yards, but I don't think they've given up a single rushing touchdown this year. And I think Benny Cunningham is coming back off of injury, and he was kind of that passing down back. So maybe they try to work him back down into that third down role, which kind of cuts into what Gurley's been doing these past 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's exactly the point I was going to make.
Yeah, I'm hoping on that not happening because, I do worry about that. But he's been working on his passing down work, so I feel like this is for Todd Gurley, this is his last shot with me.
Yeah, I've been low on Gurley all year. I actually was excited to roster him last week. He had a solid week, nothing incredible. His biggest gains have all come in the pass, catching the ball in the backfield. And if Cunningham takes that role back, I don't trust the Rams' offensive line. If Todd Gurley was on a different team, I'd have no issue with it. But the Rams' offensive line has just allowed everybody in the backfield, and I kind of expect some of that to continue against Detroit.
Yeah, I think I got Todd Gurley at number 8 based off of the matchup because he is playing Detroit. But one guy I kind of like a little bit more than him this week is Carlos Hyde. He's going on the road against Buffalo, another team that's like right in the middle of the league against the run. But Carlos Hyde's been getting it done this year. Well, it's a little bit concerning about the team he plays for, but they're still willing to give him the ball because it's pretty much all they got.
Yeah. You're so proud. You only had it one spot lower than me, Todd Gurley, but yeah, I really like Carlos Hyde too. There's only one more I have higher than Carlos Hyde, and that's C.J. Anderson, just because of matchup, San Diego. And everybody's worried about the Devontae Booker potential timeshare thing. I'm not really too worried about it, at least this week. This is San Diego. Their defense is really barely there, and they
got a pretty decent run defense, actually.
Yeah, I was going to say that they do have a pretty decent run defense, but I like C.J. Anderson. He's going to have a bounce-back week, but I think eventually this season either he gets injured or Devontae Booker ends up in some sort of a timeshare with him. But I don't think it's quite this week.
Yeah. Anderson's a guy, if I have on my season-long team, I'm trying to trade him. Because the Booker seems like it's not if, but when. He keeps getting more and more touches. The guy I'm really high on this week is Mark Ingram. He gets the ball in the backfield. He's been running well. And that Panthers defense doesn't scare me. I mean, Jaquiz Rodgers just torched them. I think Mark Ingram could do a lot of the same this week.
I'd really like to see him get a bigger workload and maybe stop sharing so many passing downs with Cadet. But I like him this week, too. I think I got him as a high-end running back, too, this week. I could definitely see him finishing in the top 12, though. All right, my number 9 is Melvin Gordon. He's going against Denver. He's at home. Denver, I think they really miss Malik Jackson because they've been getting up some runs in the interior this year. And I think, obviously Melvin Gordon's yards per carry isn't what you would hope it to be, but he's got 6 touchdowns through 5 weeks. And I don't see why he can't score another one this week against Denver.
Yeah, I can definitely see your vote of confidence there. I was going to say that too. I have Melvin Gordon high as well. I have him at number 11, so not too much lower than you. I got Carlos Hyde at number 9, and you just pretty much said all the reasons why. He's a good play this week just because of that. He's just been getting it done, man. I mean, the guy, he seems like he's pretty matchup proof because San Francisco has one of the worst running back schedules all year, and he's still finding a way to get it done. So I respect that. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, the Niners run the ball no matter what the score is. I mean, when they were down, 38-0 against the Seahawks, there they are, giving the ball to Carlos Hyde to try to come back.
Yeah, and he got a lot of garbage time points that game, too.
Don't expect that out of a running back, but I agree with you that he's matchup proof. I know on FanDuel and on DraftKings especially, he's really cheap. He's hard not to play.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely worth a snag there. Rounding out my top 10, I have Ezekiel Elliott at number 10. Normally I have him like the top 5. I know he's going against a pretty tough run defense, so I think that's probably why I could have probably knocked him down even further if I really wanted to. But I got him at number 10. I think he's going to have a tough sledding this past weekend.
I think the Packers' run defense is the most underrated unit in the NFL. They live in the backfield. I remember week 1 against T.J. Yeldon, they had 8 tackles in the backfield. That's absurd. And when Adrian Peterson tried to run on him, he couldn't go anywhere. The Giants don't have any running backs. Neither do the Lions, really. But, they didn't go anywhere. This is going to be their toughest test against a great offensive line. But if you have Zeke, you got to start him. But it's definitely a matchup that would worry me.
Yeah. Well, and running out my top 10, I got Christine Michael, like you were just talking about, Elliott. Hard-pressed to find a better matchup. And he's been rolling, man, and I think that this is his backfield to lose now with Rawls out for an extended period of time. I think that he's going to end up running away with his job, going to have it rest of the season. So, but yeah, and I think this is going to be a big reason why. I love him at home. I was actually at the game against San Francisco where he scored 2 first-quarter touchdowns, and, man, that guy looks explosive. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy. Green Bay I think they're giving up less than 50 yards a game on the ground. So their front line is definitely stout. It'll be like you said, one of the greater tests going up against that Dallas offensive line. It's definitely a game that I'm going to be interested in watching this weekend. My number 11, we talked about a little bit, C.J. Anderson. He's got a kind of a tough matchup against San Diego, but it's definitely a game where they could be ahead and they could try to milk up the clock with Anderson. So that's why I have him in my top 12.
The Broncos-Chargers game tomorrow night is going to be real interesting because I think a lot of people expect the Broncos to win that game. It's only a 3-point spread, but you got to think if Lynch starts, it's good news for Anderson because they're going to give the ball to Anderson that much more. But even if Simeon starts, I think Anderson is still a top 12 running back for another week or two before it kind of turns into a 60-40 split.
Yeah, it sounds like Trevor Siemian is going to pull the start for tomorrow, so just keep that in mind. My number 12, I have he's not a great matchup, but just I like the way that the workload that he's been getting is Devontae Freeman. He's going against Seattle. I would feel a little bit hesitant to play him, but him and Coleman playing so good, it's going to be kind of hard to sit him even against this tough Seattle defense.
Yeah, it's going to be hard week in, week out, figuring out which one to play and which one not to play. And honestly, now I've come to the realization that they're both just RB2s week in, week out. So I wouldn't so much say that Devontae Freeman is matchup proof, and I wouldn't say that about Tevin Coleman either. I have him a lot lower because of the matchup, but I do agree with you. I do think that if you have Devontae Freeman, you got to let him roll. But I'm a little bit lower on him. I have Mark Ingram at number 12. It was like Eliot was saying. I think I'm really high on him this week. I'm hoping that he gets more passing down work done, though. That's my main concern with him.
Yeah, no, in terms of the Falcons running backs, they catch the ball in the backfield, and that's what they've been kind of banking on a lot of their points with. That's tough to take away completely. If they take away Julio, that's what they're going to do, because Sanu hasn't done much since week 1, and Tammy's probably not going to beat the Seahawks, so they're probably going to go through the running back. So they have a chance, but the matchup, again, you play in Seattle, I don't play you. So I'm a little low on them. I'm really high on Ryan Matthews this week.
I'm glad you just talked about him. I got him at number 13.
I have him at number 13 as well.
I love. First off, you've got a great matchup, but he's got to not fumble the ball at crucial times, because that's definitely going to lose you time in this little running back timeshare that they have back there.
Yeah, I was really pissed off when that happened, because I was really worried going into this game as a Ryan Matthews owner in a couple leagues, so that he was like a good late round value. I was really worried that Wendell Smallwood was going to get involved, Darren Sproles we already know, but I thought that Ryan Matthews was about to get phased out of this offense, and I loved how he was utilized. He was running really well, nice downhill runner against Detroit, and then he does that fucking bonehead move, and I'm like, here it is. They're going to bench him rest of the season or whatever. And I think everybody's kind of overreacting a little bit. I think if he keeps running the way he did against Detroit, man, I think there's really nothing to worry about. I think it's his backfield if he can stay healthy.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said.
All right, my number 14, we went over him a little bit, is Mark Ingram. Who do you guys got at 14?
I got Terrence West. New York Giants, I know they're kind of a tough draw as far as defenses go, as far as against the run. But he's been getting it done, man. I like how he looks in that Ravens offense, and I expect this to be a grinded out game. So I think that Terrence West, with Joe Flacco's lack of options, Steve Smith, etc. I think that he's going to lean on Terrence West a little bit in this game.
Yeah, I'm much lower on Terrence West than you.
I got Giants run all the way down to 28.
Oh, okay.
It's a bold call, though.
I mean, it very well could be a grinded-out game. I don't see him having a lot of success over there, so that's why I have him so low.
Yeah, he's kind of my dark horse. I have a feeling on him.
My number 15 is Theo Riddick. He's playing at home against the Rams. We obviously seen what happened last week with McCoy. I don't think that's going to happen, but I like the way he's being utilized. If they could try to maybe limit his interior workload a little bit and just kind of let him loose as a pass catcher, I'd like that probably a little bit more, but I see him having a pretty good weekend.
Honestly, after you get past 15, a lot of these guys are hold your nose and play.
Yeah.
Like, the matchups are tough, and the players aren't that good, or they're in timeshares. It's just
Is there
not
anybody
much.
outside the top 12 that you kind of like that we haven't mentioned yet that you think could have a pretty good surprising week?
I think that I don't know if you did or not. I sure as hell didn't hear it, but Jonathan Stewart. Obviously the matchup's good, but yeah, he's in a timeshare-ish, I think.
Yeah, it's a lot going to depend on his health.
And the only thing that really kind of worries me there is what if like it ends up becoming a shootout, then he kind of just becomes forgotten, you know?
Yeah, and that's my thing too. It comes with a lot of caution. Don't get me wrong; it does come with a lot of caution. But I am saying he is supposed to come back this week, but he is in some sort of a timeshare with Artis Payne and Whitaker. So he's a very with caution type play.
I think a guy that you could throw in as an interesting play would be a guy like Darren Sproles. I know that he's been sprinkling in there in relief of Ryan Matthews last week, and he was actually getting a lot of work when he was out. I could see him having a pretty good game against Washington.
Yeah, Sproles always starts the season explosive, and he kind of plays to the end. But when he gets the ball in his hands, he's as explosive as any running back in the NFL. Plus, you always got the chance that he returns a punt for a touchdown. He's a high upside guy. Yeah, the other guy, he having a good game is Giovanni Bernard. With that game script, they're probably going to dump it off to him a lot. Probably see 15 to 20 touches. He could be a lower end guy you could play.
Just a side note off of Gio is it looks like Jeremy Hill is getting first team reps at practice. Obviously, it's going to probably change once the game actually happens because I don't see him having a whole lot of success in that game. It seems more like a Gio game.
Yeah, and speaking of the same kind of a conundrum, I was actually going to pick your guys' brains on. So you got Bilal Powell and Matt Forte. They're going up against Arizona, kind of a tough draw for a guy like Matt Forte. But I was thinking, too, Bilal Powell, this looks like a game where he could really excel because he's going to be kind of that safety net for Fitzpatrick. So I feel like Bilal Powell could be a very usable fantasy option this week against a tough Arizona defense.
He has 18 catches in the last 3 weeks. So
yeah, you got to love that too.
He's becoming PPR viable for sure. The Jets are going to lose this game.
Yeah,
and
PPR leagues, he's outscored Matt Forte in 3 straight weeks. So.
Yeah, because Forte is a good passer out of the backfield, but he's not necessarily someone the Jets are using in situations where they're trying to come back and dump it off to him and have him explode for big plays. So I could see him not doing that much in the first half, then catching 6 to 8 passes and getting 60, 70 yards and putting up a decent day for you.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. I feel like he's a nice flex play this week, and season longs or maybe even some daily fantasy teams. I feel like that Powell might actually be a good play. But I was just saying that if you guys want to move on, we can.
He's kind of slowly been stealing work away from Matt Forte, so it's something to definitely keep an eye on. Yeah, but we can definitely move on over to wide receivers. I know I already gave it the spoiler. I don't think it's too much of an argument. I got Antonio Brown at number 1 going against Miami. He's just a motherfucking man, He gets the job done week in, week out.
Yeah, I feel like I have to put a justification on it, but I really don't have any. It's Antonio Brown, man. Against Miami, you should just start him.
Yeah, I really think wide receiver rankings should come out each week with Antonio Brown and then everybody else. He shouldn't even be included so other people have a chance to be one. But the only thing I'll say in terms of daily fantasy, I don't think he's playable on DraftKings because he costs $10,000, and that basically cripples your entire team. And in order for him to pay off that price, he needs 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. And can he do it? Yes, but I think there are better options for daily fantasy just because of his price. But in terms of season long or just best wide receiver of the week, he's definitely it.
Yeah, easily.
I don't think I've ever had him in DFS at all. So he's just too expensive. Who's your best receiver this week? Not named Antonio Brown.
I got AJ Green. This is kind of an underwhelming New England secondary for me. I mean, your best corner is Malcolm Butler. You know, it's not really too intimidating to me. So I got AJ Green. I feel like Eliot was saying, I think that Andy Dalton turns in a decent enough week, and I feel like AJ Green, man, he's going to feast again.
I want to say Will Fuller, but I'm joking because I'm just really high on Will Fuller this week. But AJ Green is someone that worries me. The Patriots are famous for taking away your best option and letting other people beat them, and I think they'll double team AJ Green and have Butler single cover LaFell and others. I think I have Green around 8, but I love Allen Robinson this week. That Bears secondary is terrible. They just got toasted by T.Y. Hilton. Robinson gets all the targets now and is a touchdown monster. I think he could have a big week.
Yeah, A-Rob is my number 2 as well. I mean, he's going up against the Chicago defense that they got hurt, and they got hurt bad, so I could see that definitely happen again. I think there's going to be a shootout, too, so look for him to have a lot of work.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys brought him up because he's actually my number 3, so I'm not too low on Allen Robinson. I don't know. I have a feeling on AJ Green this week, and it's kind of just like, I totally agree with you, but we all know that AJ Green can overcome double coverages, so however much attention he gets really never worries me on him.
I don't know. I've kind of seen him struggle a little bit in double coverage in the past and kind of get frustrated and just kind of quit.
Oh no, I know it's kind of a hit or miss thing with the double coverage in AJ Green. I'm just saying, it sometimes doesn't affect him. It just kind of depends on the game flow of the game, all that stuff.
His potential is as high as anyone else other than Antonio Brown on the week. The way the Patriots have taken away the number 1 option consistently, it worries me.
Well, it seems like every week that's what pretty much that's what New England's been doing is they've been doubling up on one person and then they'll put Butler on somebody else alone on an island, and it's been working. So,
yeah,
my number 3 is Jordy Nelson going against Dallas. I think that Jordy Nelson is going to be a prime decision to get a prime target to get a touchdown in this game. He's been a red zone monster. I could see him having a pretty good game against Dallas.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I could definitely see him getting a touchdown this game. It's been pretty much the story from first quarter on is Jordy Nelson usually gets a touchdown in these games. So I feel like he's a good bet for that, which is also why I have him at number 4. So I'm definitely not low by any means on him.
Yeah, I mean he and T.Y. Hilton are the only receivers to get 25% target share in every game this season. So I'm right there with you on Jordy Nelson.
All right. My number 4, I'm pretty bullish on this guy this week, is Kelvin Benjamin going up against the New Orleans Saints. I think this is a game where Cam Newton's going to try and stay in the pocket a little bit more. I know the coaches have been talking to him about it, and he's going to find Kelvin Benjamin consistently.
Well, I can definitely agree with that. My number 5 is Larry Fitzgerald. I think that he could exploit this New York Jets secondary, and he's proven it time and time again this season that age is just a number for him. So I'm pretty high on Larry Fitzgerald this week.
I love Larry Fitzgerald. I'm lower on Kelvin Benjamin than you. I feel like if I told you where I had him ranked, I wouldn't get invited back on the show. But the Saints are terrible on defense. I think we can all agree on that. But they've actually done an okay job taking away a team's number 1 option. Julio Jones didn't kill him. No one on the Chargers killed him. I would rather have Greg Olsen than Kelvin Benjamin this week. I probably have Kelvin Benjamin outside of my top 10.
It is a good point that you brought up about the New Orleans Saints defense. It seems like they have been putting all their effort to stop that number 1 guy, and then everyone else has been beating them that way. So
I'm not sure they're aware that other people can beat them, but yeah, they really have just gone all out on stopping one person.
That is a good point.
Yeah, you said that. Who do you have at number 5?
I had Larry Fitzgerald.
I'm not too far off on Larry Fitzgerald, but my number 5 is T.Y. Hilton. He's been the back-to-back games where he's had an explosion week. I don't necessarily think that's going to happen again, but I can definitely see him having a pretty good game. He's gotten over 10 targets in every single game this year, so I don't see that stopping either.
Yeah, I have T.Y. Hilton just a cunt hair lower than you do at number 7. So.
I don't think I've ever heard that as described as a fantasy football ranking, but you hear something new every day.
Yeah,
it's a pretty standard unit of measurement, actually.
I was just going to say that, it's a pretty standard unit of measurement, a cunt hair. So, yeah.
I have him at 5 as well. He's too explosive, getting 10-plus targets a game not to rank him that high. I love T.Y. Hilton this week.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's definitely going to be a great play. I got the aforementioned A.J. Green at number 6, and I also got Larry Fitzgerald at number 7. What about who do you guys have at number 6 and 7?
Oh, well, I just listed mine off, but I can give you my number 7 is a guy that I'm actually probably going to catch some heat for right now. So let me have it. I'm going to put Emmanuel Sanders. He's playing a really depleted San Diego secondary. But everybody's going to be like, no. But, I like him there. I feel like he's going to have a good week. Trevor Siemian definitely boosts that. Paxton Lynch still has to put some polish on. So I feel like that Emmanuel Sanders is going to have a good week.
I mean, I can't knock it. He's been getting the most targets in the NFL the last few weeks. I think Demaryius Thomas could have a big week as well. But I don't have Emmanuel Sanders quite that high. But I could definitely see him having a top 10 fantasy week. Go ahead. I'm a little interested to see how Odell Beckham responds this week. Jimmy Smith came out and said that if Odell starts with him at all, he's not going to play around and immediately fight him. And Odell has not done well with that kind of stuff in the past.
Yeah, I'm really genuinely starting to get a little worried on him. I do own him in a couple leagues, but my common sense tells me that eventually he's going to get it together. So.
Yeah, I almost didn't rank Beckham in the top 12. I did actually put him at number 12. I'm starting to lose a little bit of faith in him. It seems like people get under his skin a little bit too easy,
Yeah, without a doubt, people get under his skin.
Yeah, I don't have him ranked too much lower than you guys do. I have him at number 8, so just,
Well, my number 8 is Brandon Marshall. He had 15 targets last week, and he may not get that many this week, but I think, Arizona's defense has been taking quite a hit this year, so I look for him to have a decent enough game as long as, Fitzpatrick doesn't turn the ball over a trillion times. I think he'll have a fine enough week.
Yeah, I have him a spot lower, but the thing that really concerns me, man, is Patrick Peterson's shadowing him all game. That's the only reason why. And honestly, if it weren't for Patrick Peterson, I would have Brandon Marshall ranked probably in my top 5. But with that being said, yeah, with Patrick Peterson, man, that dude's just locked down as a get. So, but yeah, I do have him just a spot lower than you do. So I do think that he turns in a decent enough week, but he's going to have a hard time getting something going.
Yeah, this is his second. This is his hardest matchup the rest of the year. He did well against Sherman, though, and Fitzpatrick throwing the ball. And Fitzpatrick will throw it to the Cardinals at some point during the game when it's not appropriate, when it's just the worst possible time. But he'll throw it to Marshall 12 times this game.
I love that you bring that up, too, because we had a friend that always called Fitzpatrick the last true gunslinger because he wasn't afraid to throw it in double, triple coverage. So, yeah, if there's any quarterback that's willing to throw a very ill-warranted pass, it's Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, he's the last true gunslinger. There's no other gunslinger in this league. He's the only one.
Well, if we could have no more gunslingers, that'll work for me as a Jets fan.
All right. Who do you guys have at number 9?
My 9 is, I just said it, Brandon Marshall, so you can skip me.
All right.
I got Amari Cooper pretty high up.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty high.
He's definitely a guy that's stock is on the rise, and I can see why.
Marcus Peters doesn't scare me. Philip Gaines wouldn't scare me. I think he got loose last week. If he gets his red zone touches, he could be a top 5 play this week.
Well, he could have easily had 3 touchdowns last week. Yeah, he's got his feet in.
Yeah, definitely. I can definitely see why you guys are high on Amari Cooper. I'm definitely high on him too. I'm not too far away on him. But my number 10 this week is, like we said, Odell Beckham. We don't need to go into it. We know that he's got issues in his head and all that stuff. And he's got a pretty decently tough matchup against Baltimore. Not terrible, but I think the thing that scares me the most about Odell Beckham is the fact that, like, Eli Manning's been pretty erratic. You know, he hasn't been playing up to standards, so that scares me a little too.
Eli Manning's been a shitload of fuck these first 5 weeks, and he's kind of starting to piss me off a little bit.
Yeah.
I think I just have him on too many of my teams is what it is.
Yeah, I can see you're getting tired of him.
Before we get too far ahead, I got at my number 9. I have a guy that's kind of disappointed the last 2 weeks that he was in. He's coming out of a bye week. Is Brandon Cooks. He's going against Carolina. Their defense, has been struggling quite a bit these past couple of weeks. I could see him having a pretty good game.
I could definitely see Cooks. I like him this week too. For the aforementioned depleted Carolina secondary. I could definitely see it happening, especially at home, especially with Drew Brees at quarterback.
I have him Cooks one spot lower than you. I have Marvin Jones right there. I think Jones could have a big week against the depleted Rams secondary.
Yeah, I have him pretty high up too.
I got Marvin Jones at number 13. I was trying to find a way to get him in there, but I also didn't want to put Julio Jones outside of my top 10, although I probably could have, because I feel like this is a week. You have a similar week to what he had last week.
Yeah, I agree with Julio Jones. Yeah, Seattle, man. It's just not a good day. So yeah, I feel like tomorrow Sunday could definitely be a goose egg for Julio this week.
I don't see it definitely a goose egg. I could see him getting like 6 for 60, something along those lines.
Yeah, I can't put Julio in my top 10 this week. Which sounds crazy, but when you think about what he did against Denver, what he did against New Orleans, if you take out that phenomenal week against Carolina, he hasn't been a top 10 receiver this year.
Well, it's been kind of a rough year for top receivers that were like, if you took a receiver in that first round, you thought you were getting some good value, but you got guys like Beckham that's underperforming, Hopkins is underperforming, even Allen Robinson got off to a slow start. It's been kind of a rough year for the top receivers.
It always is.
All right. Like I said earlier, my number 12 is Odell Beckham. I actually have Demaryius Thomas at number 11. Kind of the opposite of you guys. I know you guys are pretty high on Sanders. I don't have Sanders real far down there either. I think I got Sanders at number 15, so he's right there as well. I think they could both have a pretty good game.
I think Thomas is a better player. Sanders is getting the targets.
He is.
I just wish they'd bring back the wide receiver screen to Demaryius Thomas that went for 80 yards once a week.
Yeah, it's like whatever happened to that,
It's odd with Peyton Manning. So at my number 12, I have Julio Jones. So we won't go too into that. We just talked about it, but yeah, I could definitely see this being a week where he either turns into goose egg or just kind of a mediocre week, something like that. It's a tough matchup.
I'm just curious for both you guys. How low are you guys on Alshon Jeffrey and Hopkins this week?
I'm actually a lot higher on Hopkins this week than I am on Jeffrey. I'm actually starting to see real concern with Jeffrey rest of the season. But as far as Hopkins goes, I actually have him not ranked too far down. I have him at number 14 this week.
Jeffrey's whole thing was that he got all the targets, and now he's not getting them. So that's really concerning. Hopkins had his biggest games in garbage time last year. I don't question the talent of DeAndre Hopkins, but clearly doesn't have the chemistry with Osweiler, and I don't like him this week. I think Vontae Davis has been good the last 2 weeks. I have a pretty crazy next top 3, but I have Hopkins outside of my top 15.
Wow, that's surprising, but not too surprising.
I have them both outside my top 15, and I feel like I could have probably ranked Jeffrey a little bit lower than what I did. I have Jeffrey at number 20, and I honestly didn't really feel great about putting him there. He's just, like you said, not getting the targets. The number 2 receiver over there in Chicago has been getting an absurd amount of targets. I think between Kevin White and Meredith, they got over 55 targets through 5 weeks, and you thought that's the kind of volume that Alshon would be getting this year,
Yeah, very disappointing, man. He's been burning fantasy owners, and I think it continues. But as far as DeAndre Hopkins, I really do truly think that he's going to get it together this season. I have faith that he will. I don't have faith in Coxsweiler, but DeAndre Hopkins, I feel like he's going to get targets forced to him. I think Indy, even with Vontae Davis, I think that's still an exploitable matchup, and I feel like if anything, he'll be successful in maybe garbage time or something like that. But this is a game that I can actually see Houston winning, so I know my logic isn't really quite there, but he's just a guy that I can't write off quite yet.
Even last year, if you look at it, DeAndre Hopkins, he wasn't very efficient. Like, he wasn't catching a high percentage of his passes, and he was getting a shit ton of them from Hoyer, who's kind of just funneling in all these targets. And now that he's not there, the ball is getting spread out a little bit more, and you're starting to see that effect on him.
Yeah, because Coxsweiler wants to swallow Fuller's dick.
Speaking of that, that's who I have next. I think Will Fuller is my sleeper to be the number one overall wide receiver this week. I think he ends up with 7 catches for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. He gets to play the Colts secondary that outside of Vontae Davis is terrible. He leads the NFL in deep pass targets with 17. Now, he's only caught 3 and dropped 3, but he's had big games at home. He's gotten 7+ targets in each week, and I see him having a big game on Sunday night.
Wow.
Yeah,
I can't say that your logic is misplaced because it definitely seems right, but yeah, that's pretty high to have him. But yeah, I do agree with you. I think that's great logic.
I mean, I do think he's a nice play. I actually have him inside my top 25 this week. I wouldn't be surprised if he had a big week, obviously, because he's not going to have Vontae Davis on him. Vontae Davis is one of the best corners. He's probably going to spend a lot of time with Hopkins, so that definitely leaves him one-on-one with a guy that probably shouldn't even be rostered in any other team, so that's pretty good if you're looking at it that way.
Yeah, I mean, these guys were Antonio Cromartie's backups, so that's all you need to know on that one.
Yeah, that is a very, very good logic. So, yeah, I definitely think if I do play DFS this week, I think that's a great play.
All right. Is there any other receivers you guys want to mention before we move on?
I have 2 I want to mention. Terrell Pryor. Sounds like he might play some quarterback again this week. He's going to be lined up against Parrish Cox when he plays wide receiver, and Cox has been getting destroyed this year. He's the only option they have. I could see him getting 11 targets, and I could see him having a similar day to the one he had against Miami where he put up 30 fantasy points. And Deshaun Jackson, if Jordan Reed's out, is going to get a ton of targets. Gridden said they're going to funnel him the ball this week. He's going up against the Eagles, and he only needs 1 or 2 catches to go for 100 yards. And I think he has a big week this week as well.
I definitely like that Pryor pick because I thought he was going to play a little bit of quarterback last week, but it ended up being Charlie Whitehurst, and that's just disappointing. But yeah, I think Pryor. I think Pryor will be a pretty good play this week. He's a little bit of a do-it-all type of guy, and you got to like those kind of guys because he can put points up from all over the field. So that's something to definitely keep in mind. I got him at number 21.
Yeah, I can see it. I mean, I feel like Terrell Pryor's in for a pretty nice week, too. I agree with Eliot. I think this is a really exploitable secondary. Tennessee's got one strength. It's against the run. So, yeah, this is an area where he could definitely do some damage.
All right. You guys ready to go over to some tight end talk?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Gronk is finally looking healthy, but with that being said, my number 1 tight end this week is Greg Olsen.
And I cannot argue that at all. He's actually my number 1, too. New Orleans, need I say more?
Yeah. I actually wish that Derek Anderson was starting this game for Greg Olsen. He
really like to see he is really in sync with him,
Yeah, he's played 3 career games with Derek Anderson. He has 2 1 overall finishes as a tight end and 1 tight end 3 finish. But I think he's the vocal point of the offense at this point, and he's getting 25% of the targets every single game. So I love Greg Olsen this week.
All right. But I got him at number 1. I still have Gronk at number 2. I think he'll be a fine play. All those touchdowns that Bennett got could have easily been Gronk's touchdowns. But I think they're both pretty good plays, though.
Yeah, I have Rob Gronkowski at number 2 as well. I think that he's also just a fine play this week. This is Cincinnati we're talking about. They are pretty strong and can pass, in most situations. But, last week was not one of those weeks. They looked very exploitable by Dak Prescott, and I think Tom Brady is a guy that can rip him to shreds.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah, I have Gronk at 2, and I have Jimmy Graham at 3.
I'm glad to see that you got. I'm glad that you see him that high. I'm not as high as you are on him, but I'm glad to see that he's there. I got him at number 5.
Yeah, I got Delaney Walker at 3. I think that he's a good play against that Cleveland defense.
Yeah, I got him at number 3 too. Cleveland, and he's another guy that's probably the focal point of that offense. So I definitely like what I see there. Who do you have at number 4?
My number 4 is actually kind of a surprise, and I might get some shit for this one, but I like Zach Ertz against Washington. They haven't been very good against defending the tight end position, so I think that he's in for a good day.
I have Travis Kelce. The Raiders can't defend the tight end. He basically catches the ball every time they throw to him. It's just a question of whether or not they're eventually going to realize that. He could have a big game.
Yeah, I mean, even dating back to last year, Oakland was pretty bad at stopping the tight end. I have Travis Kelce at number 4 as well. I obviously would like to see this be a shootout. I don't know if that's quite going to be the game script, but I definitely like Travis Kelce in this one.
Yeah, I have Travis Kelce up there too. He's one spot lower than I have Ertz, but you're absolutely right. This Oakland secondary is laughable at best, so need I say more.
Yeah, I got at number 5, I have Jimmy Graham. I know before their bye week, he had back-to-back 100-yard games, and he's looking like he's a pretty good weapon for that offense. So I think it's definitely making the offense as a whole that much better.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on Jimmy Graham. You guys are really singing his praises. Elliot, you're really high on him, but it's not unwarranted. I have him at number 6, so I definitely agree that Jimmy Graham is a fine play this week against Atlanta.
Yeah, if Jimmy Graham and Will Fuller do what I think they're going to do, I might have a weekend like last weekend. I'll tell you that much. I'm very high on those 2 guys.
Yeah, we're both praying for you, so I hope that you do well. I'm too poor to be spending that kind of money to get in those tournaments, but one day I hope to do that. All right. My number 6 is Julius Thomas. He's going against Chicago. He's been a kind of an up and down guy this year, but I'm looking for this to be a game where he can get utilized in the red zone. It can't just always be Allen Robinson. I mean, I guess technically it could, but I mean that wouldn't be no fun, would it?
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm real high on Dennis Pitta this week.
Yeah, I'm really glad you mentioned him.
The Giants can't cover the tight end, and he's been getting a lot of targets, and if Steve Smith misses some time, it could be the Mike Wallace and Dennis Pitta show.
Yeah, I was just going to mention him. He was my next guy on this list at number 7. I think that Dennis Pitta is a nice play this week, and you're right. I don't really have to put in more justification than the fact that New York really can't defend the tight end position. So.
Yeah, we're not too far off on this one. I got Dennis Pitta at number 8. A guy that I have in front of him could definitely blow up in your face and do nothing for you is Kobe Fleener, but he could very well have a good game against Carolina, who's been a team that's kind of struggled at stopping that tight end as well. I know they had McDonald a few weeks ago go for a 75-yard touchdown. They've been giving up some plays to the tight end.
I like that a lot. I'm right there with you. I have him one spot below Pitta. But I think Fleener's a guy you could probably pick up on waivers. People are super frustrated with him. And,
especially coming off a bye week, he's definitely available.
I like where you guys are going with this because I have him one spot lower than that too. Kobe Fleener, I think that he's a nice play this week. You don't really need much more justification than what you guys just gave.
All right. Who do you have? Well, you said you had number 8?
Yeah. My number 8 was Fleener.
Yeah, my number 8 is Zach Miller going against Jacksonville. He seems to finally be doing what I thought he was going to be doing to start the season. He's been having, I think it was 2 or 3 good games in a row, and I see that continuing against Jacksonville.
Yeah, I agree. I have one spot lower than you. I think it's just kind of a trend. But, yeah, Zach Miller is a great play. And, I hope Brian Hoyer is the quarterback all year because this whole offense just looks a lot better with him at quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, he seems to get the red zone targets, so I have no issue with that.
The next guy I have ranked at number 9 as Jordan Reed. If he does play, I'm not totally sold on if he's going to play or not because he does have some head injuries in the past that are kind of concerning. So I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I got a guy, Jason Witten, here. They're going up against Green Bay, and Dak Prescott, he's a rookie quarterback. We all know how those rookie quarterbacks like to lean on those tight ends. And Jason Witten's one of the, the best kind of check down machines, you could hope for. So I like Jason Witten this week. Yeah, a little dink and dunk.
I have Martellus Bennett at 10. He's not going to score 3 touchdowns again, but it's clear that the 2 tight end offense is something they're really going to use. And the Patriots have proven in the past they can sustain 2 top 10 tight ends weekly. So I kind of like him again this week.
Yeah, I think he'll have a fine week. I got Martellus Bennett number 11. It does look like the Patriots are willing to use 2 tight ends. It's not something that I was sold on to start the season. I was like, yeah, that's not something that happens very often where a team uses 2 tight ends successfully like they did with Aaron Hernandez, but it definitely looks like they're willing to do it according to last week, so we'll see if that trend continues.
Yeah, I agree. I have him at the exact same spot, so no issue here.
And then rounding out, I got a guy in front of him. I have Zach Ertz. I put him there just based on the fact that he could have the volume. I'm just a little bit concerned because he's never really been a touchdown guy, so I think he's going to kind of stay at that back-end tight end 1 spot for me for the time being.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, before last week, Ertz was getting looked, but he's not exactly a killer in the red zone.
Yeah, I'm hoping for an expanded role.
It could be the fact that he was coming off a rib injury. Maybe he was coming back slow. So that remains to be seen because we know Zach Miller was also coming off a rib injury. He played just fine. He had like 7 for 70. So we'll definitely see how it plays out this weekend. My number 12, rounding up my top 12 tight ends, I didn't really feel very comfortable putting him there because I don't really exactly know who's going to be quarterback, but I put Gary Barnidge there. I guess I could have put Gates or Ebron, but the rest of the crop isn't looking too hot right now.
Yeah, I actually have kind of a shocker at number 12. Well, depending on who you are. I actually liked how he was utilized last week with Jesse James with Pittsburgh, and we all know that Miami is kind of streamer city. So I think that Jesse James could be a potentially good play this week. He gets a touchdown.
Yeah, I was actually going to mention him as well. I mean, the man that was named to be a porn star kind of got his target.
Yeah.
But speaking of Jesse James, if you're desperate for tight end and can wait a week or two, Ladarius Green is starting to practice and looks like he could come back when he's available off PUP. And that could be an impact player for the second half of the season.
Yeah, it's kind of nice to see that he's going to come back because you got to think over this time that he's been out, probably had time to study that playbook a little bit. And that's one thing that I was kind of concerned about him going into the season. So it'll definitely be interesting to see how he looks.
I agree.
Is there anyone else or anything else you guys want to mention?
I'm good.
Yeah, then we covered most people that are playing this weekend.
All right. Eliot, it was a joy to have you on again. We love having you on. Maybe sometime next week we can have like a DFS special or something. You can teach us a few things.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's set it up and we can make it happen.
All right. Yeah, I would love that. I need to learn some more about DFS. Getting those big tournaments, man. That's a lot of money I could be using.
I mean, I think what's the most appealing about DFS is the fact that you can have a different team every week, and if you're a fantasy team like in one of my work leagues, I'm 0-5. I'm not going to pay a whole lot of attention to that and just play some DFS,
Yeah, and I mean you can play for $1 if you really wanted to, and enter and stuff, and take chances and kind of it's a lot of fun. I mean I've won some big money a couple times and. It's a lot of fun. It takes a lot of work and research, and got to think a little bit different than other people in order to get there. But I would love to have a show next week and break that kind of stuff down with you guys.
All right, man. Look forward to seeing you next time.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That'll
Thanks,
do it for today's show. Thank you, Eliot, for coming on. I know it's getting late on the East Coast, so we'll let him go. Thank you for tuning in, Fifth Downers. This was episode 36. So please tune in on Friday. We'll be doing our matchup show, and we'll give you that extra down advantage that you need to win it all.
Sounds good.
All right. Peace out, Fifth Downers.